finally, in the third part of this video, we are going to create a better plan to your process, system, routine, and habit in order to make sure that things work out eventually. So before I dive deeper, you might want to ask, these 4 things are sort of like different, but why I would put it all together is because through how I plan my monthly, weekly, and daily, I felt like all these 4 are somewhat correlated, and I will be sharing with you how I have incorporated this thing to come up with a better structures for these 4 pillars. Before we begin this whole section, I will have something to quote from Tony Robbins as well. It goes by, everything that we're going through in life, you have to consider it as a blessing. Even though it is very hard to change yourself, you have to realize that you don't have to. All you need to change is the patterns. So in this part of this video, we're going to take massive action, keep on changing our approach, and also keep on fine-tuning it until we find that truly effective solution. Now, sidebar, I am a very digital person into an extent where when I go out and to meet my clients or when we have meetings, I will love to jot down notes on my phones or on my iPad or on my Mac because it's just sync across all devices, and I just don't get the idea of when we're already spending 2 hours in the meeting and when I go back to my office, why do I have to type out what we have discussed again in like an email and then send a recap? I just don't get why we have to waste extra time. So usually when I write down on my phone, I can just send the recap within 5 to 10 minutes after the meetings, which I find it extremely effective. But of course, I also realized that a lot of people has been saying about writing things down. It will help you to remember things better, or it will help you to understand things better. So after a while, I do started to write things more often, and regardless, I do always have a to-do list in place. Like, this has been my practice, I think, since my entire life. So instead of doing my to-do list right now digitally, I would now write it in a notebook and I would cross it physically. And while I was doing that, I realized that by crossing it physically, it does give you another level of satisfaction when things get done. But that's all I practice. Now that I have write more and more, I realize that I am now in a completely different level. So let me share with you first how I create a monthly plan, and then I would break it down to daily, and then how we design a system and habit. Why this part is so important, because before that, I always have a journal with me where I would just write things without any structures or without any step. Previously, I have also have something like this, which it has like a Gantt chart, it has like a monthly planner, but it's sometimes you can be equipped by a good tools, but without knowing really how to use it, you might not be able to see the result because you are not using it correctly. So here's another book. I think I got this from my friend 2 years back. It has monthly, daily template as well, but look at it, I wasn't good in writing back then. I did not put it into good use, and I did not maximize the effect that I could have achieved. In the beginning of this year, I have purchased some products from this company called Basco. So I highly recommend, even if you don't want to purchase anything from them, I highly recommend you to follow the social media, because this is a great company that practice the golden circle very well as well. So when you purchase this journal, it also comes with a guidebook, like a manual on how you should plan your things. First, of course, we always start with the monthly planning first. As you can see, the first month of me using this book, there is nothing much going on because at the time I didn't really have this system. So what I do right now is every month I would start the month with thinking very macro. You wanted to set some of the huge priorities of that month. For example, weight loss, because weight loss is something that you shouldn't track in a daily basis, because it would literally drive you nuts if your weight goes up by like 0.1 kilos. So these are the things that you want to set on that monthly basis. Like, okay, this month I'm going to eat more healthy, but you shouldn't be expecting the result right away. So these are the things that you can set a very macro challenge or macro priorities in your monthly. As a marketer, it is very important for me to know that when are the public holidays, what are the special, International Women's Day, things like that. So this is also where I will put in some of the public holidays or events that I shouldn't miss. And then the third thing is, of course, it's birthday. There's not a few people in my life where I would really remember exactly what day and what month their birthday is. So this is where I will put them in as well, because you really don't want to miss that, don't you? So these are the three things that I will put down in my monthly planners to begin with. So just a quick recap would be your macro priorities, what are your macro strategies, public holidays and events, and birthday. So one thing special about this planner is it has a sections for you to write your priorities, and it also has a sections where it's called habit tracker, which I will dive into that deeper later on. Move on to weekly. So if you remember in my previous video, I have mentioned that actually what gets me out of this hamster wheel, that feelings of stuck, or I should say quarter life crisis, is because now that I have better process in place, my goal is to be 1% better every day. But again, this is a very vague statement. Like, how could you possibly be good by 1% every day? Here's where I'm going to demonstrate to you how you can do it as well in your weekly and daily planning. So why is weekly and daily together? Because in another part of this journal, it actually has this weekly schedule. I'm kind of scared to share because some of them could be very private. So it is a weekly schedule, and then it has time here as well. Let me just go to an empty space so that I feel more secure. Okay, so this one goes by weekly, and then you can write weekly what is your focus and also what is your weekly task. And then it goes by, here is more like a daily thing, so like it goes by hours. So in this segment, basically I have moved my to-do list into here, and I have planned it into an hourly basis as well. So every hour of the day, I kind of will time myself, like how much time I will allocate it for this particular task, and then on that day, is it possible to do? Because the thing about to-do list, by we just sort of like doing like 1, 2, 3 or in number format, it doesn't have time on it. So I find it a lot more effective when you put it into a template like that. You can actually really know that exactly what time, what are you doing, and you can also measure how effective are you, I'll say. And before that, when I first discovered about I wanted to be 1% better every day, what I did differently back then was, when I used to have like journal, I would write down my to-do list, and then at the side I would actually write down 3 things that I want to be better every day. But the longer I planned my day that way, I realized that actually the themes of what you're going to be better every day could be very, very similar. For example, I want to be emotionally stable. So how do I measure that? Is like every day, if let's say today I only have 3 trigger, and yesterday I have 4, so today I'm 1% better, and tomorrow actually I'm still going to write down the same thing, which is I'm going to be emotionally stable, and then from 3 trigger I reduce to 2 trigger and 1 trigger and so forth. So I found that slowly this system doesn't really work, because it gets kind of like boring as well. At the beginning, of course, you will be creative, every day you will be managed to come up with 3 different things that you want to be good at, but slowly down the road you will realize that all these things started to repeat themselves, because you need to understand that in order for a habit to change, it takes time. It's not like a one-day thing. So what I do now instead is that instead of me writing 3 things that I wanted to be better every day, I will reflect back or immediately write down what are the things that would make me feel happy, or what are the things that are triggered me. Yeah, it's like a very mini reflections, and I will call that more of like a mood tracker. Now sidebar, why do I want to track my mood? Because during lockdown, I realized that I'm actually a really emotionally unstable person. Like, I am a freaking sensitive bitch, and to an extent where during working hours I will work at my desk. As long as it falls under the working hours time frame, when I just go out to toilet or just to refill my water and my mom saw me and she wanted to ask me something, I would be so stressed out to the extent where it would trigger my emotion. And I realized that it is a very unhealthy thing to do, because I got triggered so easily during when I was working. But of course, maybe at the time I'm also quite stressed out about my whole working situation as well, but I felt like I really didn't want myself to be this emotionally unstable. Yeah, but I do want to improve on that. So what I did was, I will write down my mood of the day. I will call it like a mood tracker. So for example, if I eat a certain meal and I felt like it's very refreshing and it makes me feel good, I will write that down as well. Or when I woke up in the morning, when I'm reading some articles and that sort of like inspired me to do something, I will also write that down as well. That's how I track my mood in a way. it's also sort of like a mini daily reflections, because this whole thing about bullet journal, if you look into how all these YouTube bullet journals people are doing it, it's kind of a bit of that cutesy thing where they draw a lot of things, but I am obviously not so cutesy yet. I don't know, I am not so cutesy. I'm all about like fine-tuning my process and always want to be more effective, and how can I as a person achieve better. So to me, tracking my mood like that, it does help me a lot. So back to the whole writing thing, if you think writing things down can be very time consuming, or you feel like you don't have time to do it, but well, let me tell you, it is not the case, because if I can, from a person that believes in digital so much, I'm sure that you can do it as well. So, and you will get the fun of it later on when you get used to having your things planned. So besides moving my to-do list in an hourly basis, I will also track my mood as well and do sort of like a daily mini reflection. If you need to, of course, I think it's a journaling, expressing your emotion in a written form. I definitely think that it's a very useful thing to do, but if you don't think you have the time, I don't think it is necessary for you to do it. It is all about fine-tuning that process. So if you can see how I have learned from not knowing what to do with my monthly plan, and right now I think that I'm in the level 2 for my weekly planning. This is how we make progress, and this is how we can become 1% better than ourselves than yesterday. How I will wrap up the weekly plan is by the end of every week, I will also have a weekly reflections as well. This is where I will actually put in more times and words into the reflections part compared to like the daily mood tracker things. After the weekly thing, it does have like empty pages like that where you can actually write something as well. So after each week, I will ask myself 3 questions. So the first question is, what have I achieved, which I will also bracket plus 1%. On a weekly basis, I also want to know like, what have I done better this week. So I will list down all of my achievement. Be generous about yourself. So because why I say that is because I am a person where being extremely harsh on myself when it comes to things like achievement due to my upbringing, I guess. This is where I really encourage you to write down things like, I'm going to brag about my wisdom tooth again, because for a person like me who has an extremely low pain tolerance level, able to go to book an appointment and get that removed, actually thinking about it's still a very scary process, but I really look up to myself and I really am proud of myself for doing that alone. So that would be my achievement for that week. But of course, you can just write down anything that either related work or it's just on personal. This is where you should really be proud of yourself and encourage yourself even though you have no one with you. So the second question, I will ask myself what went wrong, which I will also bracket like negative 1%. This is where, for example, on my previous week, when I was suffering from my tooth pain, I realized I really couldn't do anything, to the extent where I thought that doing this whole YouTube things, I have lost interest already, because I really just couldn't put myself together to edit the freaking video. But once I got it removed, like right now, I am feeling totally inspired again. So this is where you wanted to understand sometimes, is it because of physically it went wrong, or like what does it went wrong? And sometimes it could be like your diet as well. You might be feeling very unproductive the next day because of you're not feeding your body with good nutrients and stuff like that. So this is where you want to analyze what are the things that you did wrongly or you should avoid. And the third question, which it's the most important question, is how could it be better? So this is a very common question that differentiates a leader and an employee, because when a leader approaches difficulties, it will always ask how can things be better. It will not look at the failure, it will not look at the success, it will just ask the situation like how can we be better. So ultimately, I think this is a very important question for us to get better and for us to make progress in life. So always ask yourself these questions, not just in your weekly reflections, but in a lot of situations. I always like to ask myself, if this doesn't work out, how can I make it better? How can I try my best to turn things around? So one thing that I did not mention earlier, when we plan our weekly, evening and daily. There's an SOP that you must follow, is that every day of yours must plan at least a day ahead. How I did it right now is every evening I will review my day, and then I would immediately plan the next day, or if not, the day after. Of course, some of the things like when you have meetings on a certain day, sometimes these are like prior to that you already knew, so you just plug it in anyway. But at least at the end of every day, I would get the next day scheduled ready. And I think this is a very good practice because it really does free out a lot of mental space, and you want to make sure that every hour you're productive. And on top of that, I will also do a weekly challenge. So for example, the challenge for myself for this week is to take note on what are the 5 videos that I came across this week, and it will actually inspire me to click in, watch it the whole time, and then I would need to write down why. So as you can see, why is a huge part of my life. One of my colleagues used to call me like a problematic child. In Chinese it's like 问题小孩, because I can't stop asking questions. I can't stop asking why when I first go into the company. But I think it's a good habit. I think it's a good thing to have, so be positive about that, guys. Don't take it negatively. Again, why we are feeling stuck in our age is because in order to do great things, in order to do a great job, I think most of the time we already know what are the skills, we kind of know how to do things better already, but it is this lack of spice, and first and foremost, lack of clarity of why you do what you do, lack of clarity of what exactly you want to achieve in life, and the dullness of the repetitive routines and process. These are the things that actually will make you feel stuck. Personally, I felt like if you think back, I don't think I was lost. I just think that at that moment I am not clear with what I want. But anyways, all this process, at a bare minimum, you will at least get a very clear state of mind about what you wanted to do in your life, or at least start thinking about it. Actually start thinking about it, you are already halfway there. But anyways, the last part, which is about routine and process. Having a routine and process is very important as well. Basically what I've just shared on how I plan my monthly and my weekly, I've considered that as a process in terms of my scheduling, in terms of my mood tracking, in terms of how I would like to be a better self every day or every week. I forgot what's the percentage, but I think 28% on our daily activity are based on our routines or habits. So for example, right now I wanted to create a morning routine. I was never a morning person to begin with. I'm always more productive when during nighttime. So I wanted to have a morning routine that I could achieve more. So how I did it was I write down some of the things that like successful people have been doing in their morning routine, but at the same time that would actually falls under my monthly challenge, or I don't really have a specific time range on that because I'll just keep on going back to reflect on that. For example, there's 5 things I want to do, but I realized that the 5 thing doesn't work, so I will switch things around until that it works perfectly fine. And then how I will keep track on that routine or that habit is at the bottom part of my monthly template. I actually have this habit tracker, so I think this is actually very important and quite effective as well. What you can do is right now here you can write out some of the habits that you want to track, and then what is your goal, and then this is like a 30 days column, right? So once you did it, you can give it a tick. So this is where I would track myself if I am behaving good or not. For example, things that I'm tracking right now is my reading time, my exercise, my diet. You can customize this based on what you wanted to achieve on your life, of course. I think this is something that you can draw in your journal book and also keep track on it to make sure that you have that routine or process in place. When it comes to process and routine, right, actually you can break down anything that you want to get better on. For example, I also break down my scripting, my video recording, and like my filming, my working process as well, because then I would know that okay, actually setup takes me this time and how can I fine-tune that process. So if you couldn't get it already, the whole theme about what I'm doing right here is to get better, to be better. Having this habit in hand, I think it will help you anyway. If it doesn't help you, please come to talk to me personally. I would like to listen to where exactly it went wrong, and I am not a professional that I claim that I can help, but I would like to just be your friend and to listen up what is your problem. We have finally come to a conclusion. I think hopefully with this 3 things. First, having a better clarity on looking for what you want in life. Second, understanding why you do what you do. And third, start creating a plan to get into a better routine, process, habit, and system. I hope that by all these 3 combined, it will really not just inspire you, but really give you a very constructive guidance to start taking massive action. So once again, if you would like to download all the questions that I've mentioned in the first and second part, I would put a link down below at my description box. You can always click that to download, and if you have any problem accessing or downloading the file, please DM me personally. I would love to help. I believe once everyone figure out these 3 things right, example, if every company right now in Malaysia, they can get their golden circle right, and that being said, if we can have more companies like Apple exist in the world, I believe it will only do good to the community and the world eventually. For the first time ever, if you really like what I'm doing right here, please click the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it really does inspire you. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!